Can you do that louder? Hello? Oh, look at you guys. You're ready to go. Well, welcome back to UDEN. It's our first membership meeting of 2017, and UDEN is now 2 years old. Hip hip for UDEN. Hooray! Who knew we'd make it this long? Certainly not me. Right, I'm Jon Dean, and we have a very packed agenda for you tonight, which will conclude, as always, with our favorite part of the evening, which is networking. Before then, we'll be hearing from our sponsors. Then we welcome back our long-missed Hive Ignite feature. And in tonight's 3-minute speed pitches, we'll be hearing about the Entrepreneur Leadership Program and also the annual Aurora Awards from Krista Grohl. Will also be, I'm sure you're all wondering, what's in the box? Ooh, well, that's teasing you for later. We will find out during the course of the evening, I promise you that much. Most of our time this evening will be spent discussing the question, should Utah's creators of digital entertainment focus on VR? Well, as if you'd want me to answer that question, we have an expert panel to kick off this topic for us before we open it to the floor, that's you guys, for your questions and opinions on the subject. Now, our regular members know that it's our goal to create a community of the digital entertainment creators. And in this room, like at every meeting, we have all of the skills, the services, and expertise needed to make award-winning digital entertainment. So at the end of tonight's presentations, please stick around for about an hour and make a point of going up and talking to everybody else who's here. I mean, everybody else. I'll be checking. Now, through networking, we help build our community, which is why it's important. As most of you know, UDEN is a non-profit trade group run by volunteers. Our membership and our events are free. And click. This is good. It's going well. Excuse me a second. Okay, that's it. There we go. So to remain free, we rely upon generous donations from sponsors, which is mostly space and food. So we're going to recognize tonight's sponsors. We're going to try to recognize tonight's sponsors. Here we go. We're here at Access Salt Lake, and they want to help our community grow and have generously offered their facility as a home for UDEN meetings. And so we'll be coming back here quite a lot. So here to tell us more about Access and the terrific services they provide, please give a warm UDEN welcome for Luke. Luke.
Hi, everyone. I'm Luke. I run the day-to-day around here. And, Access, obviously, the co-working and event space. But we want to be more than that. We want to be, as it says up there, your entry point to the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which kind of a mouthful. But what we want to do is provide startups and entrepreneurs with all the business resources they need to succeed through our networks such as Joel. I'm sure you're all familiar with Joel, or at least some of you. And SL Circle, which is the largest network of Salt Lake business owners and just business people in the valley. And we also offer office hours with our partner EVN Law, so that can help you avoid some of the pitfalls that can end up costing entrepreneurs a bit of money, as well as an investment group that we're partnered with. So if you have any more questions, or if you'd like to come by and try it for a day, just let me know. I'll be here the rest of the night. Thanks.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you again to Access for being such generous hosts for tonight. Oh, look at that. Tonight's food sponsor is Soliton Reach, a startup company who are making a VR AR controller. Ooh. Let me hear you go, ooh. Come on, this is a fully interactive evening. We're an interactive business here. Come on. We'll be hearing more about their product during Hive Ignite a little later on. But for now, please join me in thanking Soliton Reach for the food. Thank you. Woo. Which leads us to some of the things happening tonight then. So first, the most important questions, or the most important information pieces for you. First, food is that way. So is drink, plenty of it. Don't make me take it home. And the restrooms are that way, just pretty much where you came in. The exit is also that way as well, but you won't need that just yet. So I mentioned that UDEN is now 2 years old, so I'd like to share with you a short update and progress report as to what we've been up to. In addition to networking meetings with all of you, which we obviously love, we meet with lots of different groups about how to build a better ecosystem for the creators of digital entertainment in Utah. Among the big events that UDEN's been a major collaborator for include the UCDA Digital Summit, which was last December, and also the Lightspark Media Summit, which was last week, which I'm sure many of you went to. And I'd like to update everyone in the room on the progress from the UCDA Summit. There was a follow-up meeting to that, pretty in-depth here at Access back in January. So let me recap for you what happened there. Leaders from entertainment, government, and education were invited to take part in this forward-looking discussion with the goal that everyone aligns on a plan. The highest level agreed goal contains a lot of important points, which we concluded was come together as a sustainable community of creators of digital content and technology, known for the expertise of the people here delivering industry-leading quality output for global audiences. Now, I'm sure you'll agree that all sounds very nice, right? But how can we make it happen? And that's really what we, together with UCDA and the attendees at the summit, were trying to figure out. Now, we concluded that could only happen if everyone were to work together in a coordinated way to a plan which would ultimately be supported by the stakeholders in state, local government, education, and of course by industry. Now, UCDA's role would be to bring together the state, county, education, film, gaming, and more in a process called collective impact. The idea being that all of these parties working together would agree the drivers that ultimately would deliver economic growth for our sector in the long term. Now, this is going to take time. It will take time, but the key is that collaboration between public and private sector stakeholders. So in the meanwhile, while all this starts to get some traction, we as the industry, that's us, by the way, we should continue to push forward in as many ways as we can, which ultimately is going to inform and help the collective impact. Now, we've asked UCDA to give us an update on the progress at each of our upcoming UDEN meetings. And here to tell us more about the next steps is Marc Stephens from UCDA. Marc.
Okay, I'll be brief, and there are three main areas that we've been working on in the last 90 days since the event. Thank you, John. I remember that from the summit, you had to keep going up and telling people to do that. So basically, the first area that we have been working on that is of real significance and importance was that, for those of you that were there, remember, in terms of collective impact and what John just talked about, we are working with Salt Lake County, and Salt Lake County has agreed to fund it, and Shailene Gee, who has been in charge of collective impact in terms of the homeless problem here, is going to be assigned to us to move this whole process forward. So the legislative session ends tomorrow, and Ben McAdams said, basically, as after Thursday, Shailene can start working directly with us on this project. So that's very important. I don't know if all of you realize how important Salt Lake County is and what a big fish it is. And Ben McAdams is one of the most important elected officials in the state, next to the governor and the lieutenant governor, and certainly the senators and congressmen. He has the most votes. So it's a very important entity, and he is very excited and really wants to drive this forward in terms of infrastructure, policy, and there are another number of other elements involved in this whole process that we will drive forward. So basically, long story short, we want everybody's input. We're going to bring in all the stakeholders, everybody that should be involved in this, to move this forward through collective impact. So that's the most important thing. The second thing is the educational program that's in process. At the event, we talked about K through 12 as well as higher education. So there are a lot of things in play and in motion and moving forward now. Joel's been very involved in this, and he can talk about that. We have Brian Clifton and Jerry Bond, who have been working on this as well. So Joel can answer questions more about this as well. And the third element is, as you know, for those of you who are in film, who rely on the incentive to continue to function. I just left the Hill, and at 4:30 they had the final meeting, so to speak. It's often, I'm sure you've all heard the term that it's like making sausage with legislation. So they had the final meeting at 4:30 to determine what the sausages are going to be. And they'll have their underlings working through the night to craft the final bills, and they will vote tomorrow. So the current incentive is $6.7 basically $1 million, and they were hoping to have $3 million added to that. The governor said he would veto that. So Greg Hughes got another $1.5 million in there, so it'll be increased a little bit. But there's a window that's going to close on this. So the film people need to get creative and figure out new ways, and we're working on that with some funds and things that are in process as well. So.
All right, great update. Thanks, Mark. Number one, from the film standpoint, Jerry Bond and Brian Clifton have been working for quite a few years to be able to come up with a plan that would involve apprenticeships, being able to tie into CTE agreements, and different school districts, including Salt Lake City School District, Nebo School District, and Wasatch County, in ways that can tie in. It's been pretty impressive to see what the foundational and legacy approach has been to film, and now how it's kind of morphing into something where you can have different industries that are served by certain skills. So we'll see how that plays out with part of the collective impact, and then the ability to tie into the next item, which was the subject of the meeting that we had at the Founders Room with the STEM Action Center, the Compute Bill, and the eagerness of the STEM Action Center. If you guys are familiar with Tammy Getz, at one point she was the chief science officer for the state, and she's been fighting tooth and nail to be able to get computing mentorship and instruction primarily into the rural communities, but in a way that it's not currently going on right now. And it occurred to her after we were talking about some of the things that came out of the Digital Summit in December that if there can be a future that involves those from the VR Utah community and all of you that are the creators of this content, and being able to include that in the education process, that it'd be something that they want to get behind. So those of you that attended the event at the Founders Room know that that's something that's in its early stages, but can be very, very exciting, and can potentially, I can't speak for Tammy or the STEM Action Center, be some other forms of funds that can be tied into education that can help some of the youth learn how to code. Some of the things that we talked about, from coming up with some additional independent funds versus the incentive, are still in conversational phases for those of you that attended the Digital Summit. But I can't say thank you enough to John and Jeff and those from UDEN with how they're pushing forward, because they've come up with a number of different ideas of how we can tie into coming up with examples like more Ruby coders for Clark Stacey, or being able to get unification across different industry verticals and different technological sections. So I've spoke too much, but thank you very much for coming and supporting UDEN.
Thank you, Joel. Let's hear it for Joel. So thank you, Marc Stephens, and also to Joel Smith for that great update. Now, again, it might just sound like, well, senators, bills, incentives, money, right? But this is really these are the things that are foundational to actually us being able to do something with our sector, right? Tying in education, getting support for what we're trying to do, more than just lip service, which frankly is what it's been feeling like for most of us, for these last, goodness knows how many years. So I want to add a couple of things that, or add to a couple of things that also came up that I thought were interesting at that summit. Here are a few of the ideas that came up, that we can't build a sustainable industry based upon handouts, right? So even though it's good that we're talking about some incentives in motion right now, long term, we can't do that. We need to figure out how to build an industry sector that's not built on incentives, but actually meets commercial demands. So I think of incentives a bit like gasoline. or petrol, as it's called where I'm from. If you put gasoline on a fire, it goes boom, and that's what you want. But if you put them on a dry pile of sticks, you just end up with a damp pile of sticks, right? Well, we in industry have to create the flames of business before we can really justify the gasoline of incentives. Because when we do, we're not going to have to debate about incentives anymore, right? We will have proven that we have a viable business model that everybody can get behind. And it won't just be state that we're asking for incentives, but the private sector will follow as well. So it's about having a sustainable industry in the long term. So we also know that we need investment nonetheless, right? And at UDEN, many of our meetings last year, we talked about some of the challenges of fundraising. We had people from VC sitting here talking to us about why they don't like entertainment projects, films or games or what have you, because they're high risk. So one of the ideas that came out of the summit was a sector investment fund. The idea being that people would invest in the fund, which in turn then invests in the viable projects. So the fund would fund initiatives that help us meet our collective impact goals. And that's how it ties to collective impact. Why collective impact is important, because the goals of collective impact are the things that we'll be able to get funding for. We also create great talent for this sector through our educational establishments, but there simply aren't enough jobs here in entertainment to keep all of our annual graduates in the entertainment sector. So we need to figure out better career pathing to create maximum opportunity for our students, as well as better ways to help those students find jobs in the industry that we have here already. And you might say, that's all very well, John, we know all of that. Where's any of this going? Glad you asked. Thank you. One idea proposed at the summit that could help focus all of these insights and to provide those flames for the fire would be a common platform for our entertainment industry. Ideally one that has a future and that could leverage all of the creativity and technical talent that we have here already. The proposal was that VR and AR could be that platform, and that's why we'll be discussing it here tonight. Now, the idea would not to stop you from doing anything else if that was not VR related, if that's what you wanted to do. But any investment would be focused in the areas of VR. So imagine if we all became expert in this field, right? The filmmakers could help us understand storytelling in the VR medium. The game makers could help us understand interactivity and user interface. The artists could help us use the tools of visual effects and audio. And once proficient, we could lend those skills to the wider tech community that exists in Utah, the tech and medical businesses, all of whom will be looking to VR and AR in the coming years. Indeed, they already are. Also, through our educational programs, specializing in VR, we could deliver the ideal workforce for those needs. And with career pathing, such that skilled students would have the option of a vast array of jobs locally, and not just in entertainment. Thus, we build business and we build jobs. We can then build our collective skills, or brand our collective skills to the global industry. Utah is VR, for example. I'm not a marketeer. And so from that, we achieve economic growth. Is that crazy? Well, perhaps it is, but it's probably worth trying. But maybe you think differently. Well, that's what we'll be discussing tonight. We'd love to hear your thoughts. It's a direct follow-up. Tonight's panel conversation and discussion with you is a direct follow-up from that UCDA Summit. But whatever we decide to do, whatever, even if you don't like that, tell us what else we could do then. What we need is some action. So while Marc and the UCDA continue to set the groundwork for the collective impact, we would like to see how much progress we in the industry can make. So if you're interested in being part of a volunteer team to work on any of these areas that you might feel strongly about, and you want to then collaborate with these teams, please let us know. We'd love to have you on board. Now, one question you might have is, well, there's a lot of people in this room, John. Glad, well done. How could I best stay connected with this community? Well, we have a website, we have social media channels, and we have a Slack channel, sure. But here is another option created by a local developer, Spencer Verns. Spencer, are you here? Yes, there he is back there, Spencer. So why not go to your app store right now and download In Person by Uplink. That's right, Spencer, right? Yes, right. It's a great way to stay connected with this community. Now, it uses your LinkedIn account. So if you have one, then this is a great connection tool for us, right? So you don't have to wade through all of your connections and try and figure out who else might be involved in the entertainment community or UDEN. So once again, go to your app store, download In Person by Uplink, and you'll find that I'm already on there. That is one I prepared earlier. So hope to see you on there.